Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing great. If you're new, I'm Lizzie, I'm South African and I react to movies I've never seen before. And rarely, I do some other things like what I'm going to be doing today, which I'll talk about just now. And if you're a returner or a stick arounder, welcome back. It's always nice to have you guys here and always nice to see you popping in. So hope you're all doing great. Today, I am going to do a long overdue ranking video. And that is the Alien franchise, the Alien movies. So the reason I'm doing this, no one asked me to do it, but I did it for the Predator movies, and I felt I needed to do it for the Alien movies as well, seeing that they're also intertwined and that they were both basically franchises that I watched simultaneously together and things like that. So before I do get started with this, I just want to give a special shout out to all my Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you guys for being there. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your contributions. You guys really do mean a lot to me, and you really do carry me on days that you don't realize it. So thank you so much. And I want to ask you guys, if you really like this type of content, please consider subscribing to my channel. It will help my channel out greatly. YouTube doesn't really push the smaller channels, and I'm still basically a small channel, but it would help if you'd subscribe. And if you like my videos, comment on them and share them. That will really help my channel out. And if you do want to support me in any other way, you are welcome to head over to either Patreon, YouTube memberships, buy me a coffee, or PayPal. They each offer different aspects of support. So if you don't want to commit to subscriptions, you can just go to buy me a coffee or PayPal. And if you want to go and see where my full reactions are and my TV show reactions and short film reactions and behind the scenes and bloopers and mashups and things like that, you can go to Patreon. Anyway, so today the ranking I'm going to do, like I did with Predator, I'm not basing it off of technical aspects so much. I don't watch movies to pull it apart technically. I'm there to watch it for enjoyment, and if it speaks to me emotionally or in any kind of way, that is how I will feel about that, will determine how I feel about a movie. And yes, visuals are also important, but I'm not gonna go and rank it because maybe this one, the xenomorph, didn't look so good opposed to the other one, or you understand what I'm saying. So it's mostly a ranking because of which movie made me feel something more than just it being a sci-fi horror. So you don't have to like how I rank it. You really don't have to agree with me, but this is definitely just my personal opinion, and I will be ranking them from the worst to the best, so in my opinion. So definitely it's not a given that this is how they should be ranked. This is just my personal feeling about these movies, my personal experience with these movies. And I am including Alien Romulus, the newest one that was released, was it last year? 2025, yes. And then also Alien Earth, the show, the first season, because I also watched that, and I'm also including that in this ranking. Without further ado, let's just get into the rankings, and then I shall see you on the other side, I guess. Let's get going. The bottom of the list for me is Alien 3. So why did I put Alien 3 at the bottom of the list? The first reason is because of the dog. Obviously, I hated that so very much. And yes, there are people who were upset that I didn't watch the assembly cut, and that will still even comment here, you should have watched the assembly cut, blah blah blah. And yes, I do get there's a different version, the assembly cut. It's the facehugger comes from an ox, and there are probably some scenes in there that people say add more to the story, and so on and so on. And yes, I did not watch the assembly cut because I don't have access to it. I have the DVD of the theatrical cut. It's on Disney Plus in South Africa, available on streaming here, and it's a theatrical cut. And unfortunately, South Africa, we don't have access to certain streaming services that's not in our region, such as Vudu and Fandango. That's one service that we don't have access to. I think that's the only place that they streamed it, the assembly cut, the special edition, or whatever you wanted to call it. And I'm definitely not going to buy a DVD that I'm not going to watch more than once that costs me more than $20. So, and that is the reason I never watched the assembly cut. But the movie was still very understandable for me. The reason I didn't like the dog part is it was just brutal as hell. And I, who love pets, cannot stand that type of thing. The ox, on the other hand, he was already dead, so it probably would not have been so traumatizing, but for me that was very traumatizing. And then also another reason is the fact that they killed off Newton and Hicks. That was also something that we so hoped after Aliens that would be something that will develop, and they just cut them out the picture. So that was a big disappointment, and I think that was a big disappointment for many people on this movie. I think that was the main reason many people didn't like this movie, I guess. The ending really did also mean a little more. I don't think this was the ending that the assembly cut had, but in the theatrical cut, the ending was Ripley was sacrificing herself and the alien mother chestburster came out and she squeezed it tight to prevent it from getting away, obviously, but it also was a symbolic kind of motherly instinct to protect others, and that is the one part about the movie that I like. All the way through, from beginning till end, she was always trying to protect everyone, and she was the only one that kept on surviving because she had this, motherly instinct, and we will get to that when we talk about aliens as well. Apart from that, I learned that the aliens do pick up DNA from their host, and it did make more sense with the dog. Even though it traumatized me, it made more sense because it had canines, whereas from the ox, any of the behavior it had in this movie didn't make sense to me in hindsight. At number 7, I'm placing Alien Resurrection. So why am I putting this one down so low? A few things. One is I was informed before I saw the movie that Ripley was returning. So that kind of spoiled that surprise a little for me, because I knew now she was going to be back, but I just didn't know what they were going to do. But it wasn't surprising to see her being back, and I thought it would have been better if I was more surprised. Secondly, I just didn't like the whole grossness of this movie with the experiments. Yes, some of the characters, Winona Ryder's android character was a likable character, and her whole team that came and brought the humans to that ship or to that station to basically be sacrificed to breed aliens. They had a few moments that you would like them, but mostly they were just there as extra muscle or extra something, extra people to be killed. I don't know. I didn't really like what they did with Ripley so much, even though I felt very heartbroken for her when she saw all those experiments. But it was just super gross, and it just made me feel like they're just trying to make these movies so gross. Too much grossness. The camera angles were weird. They were weird camera shots that also, it just didn't sit right with me, even though it wasn't bad. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but it just didn't sit well with me. And of course, the whole weird baby thing at the end, and that science guy that was completely sick and out of his mind. It just all grossed me out so much. The story itself was basically the same story as most of these alien movies. Something breaks loose, all havoc is created because of 1 or 2 or 3 people's stupid decisions, and the experiments just get worse and worse and worse with each movie as we go. There are some of the other alien movies that spoke to me a bit more than this one. So at number 6, I am putting Prometheus. Even though Prometheus is not directly supposed to be linked to the Alien franchise, but still a part or still associated with Alien, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, I am ranking it with this group just the same as what I did with Alien vs Predator movies in the Predator ranking video, because they still get associated with the Alien movies. Prometheus for me, I don't know. I just didn't like the concept. There were one or two characters that I could like. Idris Elba's character, I really liked him a lot. And then the character Elizabeth Shaw. She was a really good female strong lead, I think, even though some moments were really ridiculous and stupid. But she turned into quite a big badass when she took that thing out of her in that medical bay thing. But all in all, the best thing about the movie was basically David, the actor that played David, the character David. He was super evil. He obviously was questioning a lot of things about the existence of humans and who's got the most power and where does his power lie and things like that. But he was definitely a very good villain, even though Wayland himself was the biggest villain still. But David was sneaky and calculating, and yes, he was definitely clever about how he went about. Visually, the movie did have very beautiful moments, but yeah, people doing stupid things. I mean, you see a thing that doesn't look normal and you touch it. The worms, those worms. I mean, it looked like huge, you know what, and these people still wanted to touch it, and they ended up being ended. But yeah, some of it was just too dumb. I don't know.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb!
They did have callbacks to the original Alien. There was moments that you got reminded of the original Alien movie, especially the end.
My name is Elizabeth Shaw, last survivor of the Prometheus.
I think with most of these movies, the end, most of them go into cryosleep, and that was the same kind of closing we had with Elizabeth Shaw. At number 5, I have Alien Covenant. This was mostly a sequel to Prometheus and still part of the prequel world to the Alien world. Both of them had these dumb people do dumb things, or supposedly clever people do dumb things. It starts off, first of all, with the whole question again, and I think that was David in the opening, talking to the guy who was supposedly Wayland about what makes you superior to me and what makes humans superior to the androids. And you gathered from there that is where David started questioning this whole thing about power and how are you supposed to be under the command of humans that are actually weak in his mind or in his android mind. We got the crew that also were in cryosleep, and they had an android called Walter there, and Walter was actually quite nice. He was a very nice android, also played by Michael Fassbender. This movie was mostly about this crew that went to this planet so that they could colonize the planet. They had all these embryos on board their ship and all these humans on board their ship in cryosleep, and they wanted to explore this planet to see if it's sustainable. And from there, havoc broke loose. The dumb things that happened, the character that poked at this weird plant. In most of these movies, all these movies, everywhere there's slime, these people touch the slime. Why do you want to touch slime? You can see each slime. You don't need to touch the slime. And that's the same feeling I have with everyone poking at weird plants and weird things that they don't even know what it is. They're not even on a normal planet, and you want to go and poke at stuff. The other guy accidentally stepped on it, so it wasn't completely his fault for being infected with it, but the guy poking at it was just dumb. We had these two people getting infected with the spores from these plants. All of a sudden, these weird aliens came out of them. We ended up having Daniels and a few of the crew members survive and try to get through this and being helped by David. A lot of shocking things gets revealed there. The way he experimented on the life forms on the planet, and you get the reveal that he experimented on Elizabeth Shaw, which is extremely gruesome. And then you get all the reveals of what he did, how he destroyed the engineers, and we had gross and creepy aliens again. It just ended that he ended Walter and he was on the ship while everyone was going into cryosleep, and he placed some alien embryos in the embryo shells. Why did I place it above Prometheus? Because it was a little bit better for me in that sense that the characters, even though some of them did dumb things, there were a few moments that they were a bit more clever about what they were doing, even though they just got fooled by David overall. But they ended up in a situation that could have been prevented, though. They really did end up in a situation that they could have prevented. But Michael Fassbender, he just played the crap out of these two roles as Walter and as David again. Visually, this movie did have good visual moments. Creepiness level, like I said with that movie as well. If they had a David spin-off on its own, I think that would have made a good movie. I don't know. And now the top 4, we're going to get to more of the movies that's more memorable. And for me, at least, and I will tell you why. At number 4, I have Alien Romulus. So why did I place it at number 4? Because the top 3 are, for me, the best 3 out of this. And Romulus is close to them for as much as what I enjoyed it in a way. But it's still not as good as the one that I feel is the best one. The one reason I enjoyed this movie is because it had more of a story to tell. It wasn't just dumb scientists making dumb decisions, people not listening to the crew member who has got the most sense. It was definitely, there was a little bit more body to the story of the characters. The girl called Rain, she discovered that her working contract was not, she couldn't go home. It was extended by Weyland-Yutani. And she didn't want to stay because she felt she worked her whole entire contract there. And she wanted to escape this planet because she realized that there were no escape for them. They were going to work there for the rest of their lives for Weyland-Yutani. So she convinced her friends and her ex-boyfriend and sister and so on to go with her to find the remains of the Nostromo. So Alien Romulus happened after Nostromo, before Aliens. I wasn't exactly sure during which timeline this happened, but there was some stuff that you still got stuck with it. This doesn't make sense how this was after that and before that, but it didn't help trying to figure all those nitty-gritty things out. You just have to go with these movies. So with this one, they discovered that there's a planet that's not affiliated with Weyland-Yutani, and to get them there, they needed basically to fly there, and it would take them 9 years. But they needed cryostasis equipment to make the journey so that they could be in cryo sleep and so that they could make the journey with the fuel and whatever they had. Again, all hell broke loose. This movie did make a lot of effort to make it feel again like the original in many ways. There were many moments that you felt you were watching something that came more from the original movie. Visually, there were very good moments. Visually, there were very big jump scares as well. And there were also very scary moments. But what made me dislike it eventually was, again, the weird grossness at the end with her sister being infected. And she basically injected herself with that weird stuff that they found in the lab, in one of the labs. And it turned out to turn into this weird looking humanoid alien that just no. Apart from the storytelling, apart from Rain and her android brother and the reason why they went and why they tried to get away from this mining colony, this movie still tried to just be as gross as it could be, like Resurrection was. It wasn't bad in terms of visual, sound design, action, and scare moment. It was just the grossest level that just kind of flipped the script for me. I just couldn't take it. I know I'm gonna get some hate for this, but at number 3, I'm putting Alien, the first original Alien. Why am I putting it at this one? Because the stories with the other two were better for me, the other two that's left. Alien was mostly just a jump scare movie. The story to it didn't make you feel very connected to many of the characters. Yes, there were moments that were iconic, and those of you who knew or who have watched the movie Spaceballs, obviously you know the character in Alien that got the first chest burster. He was also in Spaceballs, and it happened to him again there, and there was that little spoof of him saying, "Not again."
Not again.
So yes, there were moments that were memorable, and it did set the stage for all the other movies. Of course it did. The reveal of Ash being an android was, of course, a big reveal and a big shock. I think that was, for most of us, maybe one of the bigger shocks. And yes, of course, it set the stage for how Weyland operated and how they wanted this perfect organism, obviously for weaponizing reasons. But obviously they cared more about this than any human being, and all crew members on any ship that they ever sent out was disposable and expendable. So Ripley was just trying to save everyone, and none of them realized what they were dealing with, and that caused most of them all to be ended. And she and the cat survived, and there's that meme, the movie where the woman and the cat survives. No one listens to the woman, and she's the only one who survives with the cat. It wasn't bad, it was just not enough story for me to feel much for most of the characters. Even though it set the basis and the stage for all the Alien movies, it didn't speak to me that much. Yes, the horror was horrific. Yes, the alien was something weird. I did know before the time what to expect kind of with the alien itself, what it looked like, so it wasn't a surprise so much when I saw it. The surprises were how quickly it grows and how fast it was and how ruthless it was and things like that. But there wasn't a surprise with me with seeing the alien. I knew about the little inside mouth and things like that. Yeah, it was shocking, some of the things that happened. And for those years, the sets and everything that they used, and visually, it was great. It was excellent, and it still holds up. And that brings me to the top 2. And at number 2 is Alien Earth. And I know a lot of you would disagree with me on this one, but the reason I like Alien Earth is because it had more to the story, things that happened that made you feel for these characters. And I mean, Boy Cavalier, cannot stand that character. The doctor, you're in between with her. You're like, okay, I like you, you care, but then you still choose the company over your husband type of thing. And that really made you dislike her because she didn't actually have their best interest, the kids' best interest at heart. And then you felt for the children because they were all innocent, just taken away, put in these bodies that they couldn't understand. And obviously, if you put something that's not mature enough yet into something that is above their comprehension and everything, you can expect danger and you can expect retaliation or some kind of malfunctioning. And the malfunctioning that happened is that Wendy realized she had power and she didn't have to be scared. She didn't have to feel afraid. She didn't have to feel like a child anymore. She realized that humans were horrible actually, and that they were only used as experiments. And it turned her whole way of thinking around. It switched her emotions off. And this is the thing about experimenting that we always see in movies. It always goes wrong. Playing with fire when you do things like this, playing with human consciousness into android synthetic bodies, playing with creatures from other planets that you don't even know what they are, and you want to play around and figure out, oh, let's do this, let's do that, and it never turns out well. Visually, there were very good visual moments. There were very gross moments. The eyeball, didn't like that at all. Didn't like those worm, ticky, spidery things at all. That was gross beyond gross. Even the flies, all these weird creatures that they brought in was completely strange and weird and gross. I did get intrigued by the fact that she learned that she could communicate with the aliens and that she used them to her advantage. People will say, oh, that's just so silly and that's just impossible, and you cannot expect that a child must now communicate and befriend an alien. And she's not a child, she's a robot, she's an android. She's no longer a child, and she showed that very clearly when the switch was flipped, when she realized humans were not as great as she always thought. Her child innocence just disappeared. And the same with the other children. I mean, they were all innocent, playing the characters very well, but Curly, for instance, she was constantly trying to look for validation, and he constantly thought she was going to turn against Macy. And the two boys, they were just really sweet and very innocent. And also how the switch flipped with all of them, and also with Nibs. She was creepy as hell. If you look at it from a movie's angle and not trying to pull it apart with technicalities, and you look at it from a story point of view and from the whole idea of experimenting and people trying to have power over others, and how power shifts happen because of bad decisions and things like that. That was intriguing and that made the story flow for me. I'm actually looking forward to see what's going to happen in season 2, because I did hear that they're all going to renew it for a second season, so I'm not sure what we're going to expect there. My favorite is Aliens. So why is Aliens my favorite? This one made me feel more for all the characters. There was more to it for me, and even though I didn't see the extended cut where they talked about Ripley's daughter being old and she missed seeing her daughter grow up, you did get the feeling that she was sad because she didn't have her child, and she basically missed her child being grown up, and she missed her child passing away, and the motherly instinct that she had was a big part of this movie. So I did enjoy the relationship with Newt, and I did enjoy the relationship she had with Hicks, that there was something that seemed like there was something that was going to develop. He was really supportive of her, and the rest was just by stories, the aliens and everything. So this focused a bit more on her and Newt and the relationship, and the fact that Newt called her mom at the end was really just heartwarming. Bishop obviously was also a good character. We learned in the beginning he was an android, and obviously Ripley was apprehensive towards him, but in the end he became a character that we wanted throughout because he saved Newt and he showed them that he did have compassion and he did care. He wasn't the same as what Ash was. The aliens themselves, it was very much like the first Alien. It was more of a rescue mission that went wrong and them trying to survive and trying to escape. So the whole premise of this movie was definitely more story, less dumbness. I think some of the people did make dumb decisions. Maybe there were a few. Obviously you could understand some of the decisions they make a bit better than with the other movies where they just went and poked at slime or poked at some weird plant or poked at some weird worm. Visually, again, for the 1980s, great sets, great visuals. I don't think I can complain about anything there. It just had a much more satisfying end, having a few more survivors than all the others. So yeah, I don't know. That was why I liked this movie the most. I don't know if anything I said made any sense. And as I said at the beginning, you don't have to agree with me, but you can maybe just, talk to me, tell me what you thought were the better ones, what's your ranking, how do you feel about these movies, and then we shall see you again next time. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Bye!